Good afternoon. Well, you picked the right team, but your score was a little bit off.
That was something.
Can you discuss your decision, kind of looking back about, changing the offense, slowing it down a little bit, and also implementing the zone a little bit more, and just what that decision-making process was like?
Well, before you go into a season, you put together a plan, and then you try to implement that plan. As the season progresses, you have to make adjustments. It was at the stage of trying to figure out what was best for this team that led to the decision that we needed to play more zone defense and to slow the game down a little bit, to give us a better chance of being in the game with under 5 minutes to go. It is my belief that the more possessions you play, the higher scoring the game, the team with the most weapons wins. And I looked at our personnel and our schedule and thought to myself, we're going to be better off playing to 60 than we are to 75 or 80. And what that meant, we had to do some things offensively and defensively to give us a chance.
Was that personally difficult for you? Because
I don't like it.
Right.
No, it's not what I want to do. I would much prefer, our goal has always been to play to 75. It's kind of a medium tempo. We like to have 5 guys averaging double figures. We'd like for each position to produce about 15 points. And if you do that, you've got a very well-balanced attack. Your team is harder to guard then because there's not just one guy to shut down. And from a defensive standpoint, if you can produce 75 points, all you got to do to win is keep the other team from getting to 75. And if you're put any effort at all defensively, you should be able to do that. But you have to have the personnel to do that. And we had such a strong senior class last year. We lost Shane to the draft. And we had a team of guys, many of whom seniors, who haven't played that much, don't have that much experience. And then a bunch of new guys, like even Donovan Kirk, who's a fifth-year senior, doesn't have experience in our program. We don't have experience coaching him. So we were trying to learn what he could do and how he could help us, while also learning about Davon Reed and Manu Lacan, DeAndre Burnett, and so on and so forth.
How do you think the guys have responded through the transitions in this past?
Well, I think they would all prefer for us to be playing more man-to-man defense and running more. But I haven't asked them this, but I think they know we've put ourselves in a position to be in every game. We haven't won as many as we'd all like, but we haven't gotten blown out a lot either. So we've got a very, very tough schedule right now. Pittsburgh, NC State, Florida State in the next 7 days, 8 days. We've really got to focus on just trying to get better at what we've been doing.
Jim, have recruits asked you, or are you guys would your preference be to play at the pace you did last year? And
Yes.
Obviously had a great team. Or this one, and how have you answered that with them? Much like you answered it with us?
Yes.
Or, yeah.
Yeah. To a recruit, we would tell him that we would much prefer the up-tempo game. And that when we faced teams last year with a very talented group, we didn't try to play Duke to 50 or Carolina to 50. We had 89 and 90 against them. And that's what we would prefer.
How many times have you had a team meet all those goals?
Say it again.
How many times have you had a team meet all those goals? 5 double-figure scores and 75
I don't think ever. Maybe, well, it depends on what you mean, meet all the goals. We've had teams where we had 5 guys average double figures before. So that's challenging, but it's doable. But you have to have a good player at every position, because you're not likely to have like 2 point guards average 15. You can have a point and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 5 because they're all in the game at the same time. But the whole key with basketball is knowing what the strengths are of your team and trying to get them to utilize their strengths. If you looked at Manu and Ryan over the last 5 games, they have played very, very well. They've had a very good 5-game stretch. But the whole thing is consistency. Can you keep that up for 10 games? We have right now 10 games remaining. So we have to really look to our players to play with a very consistent focus and effort at both ends of the court. We've even reduced our rotation. We're playing now. The other night, I think we played 7 guys.
Yeah, like Kelly. What? I know you talked Manu. You know what was thrown at him early. So what have you seen in him since he's gotten back into the starting lineup, and what played into that decision?
I think he's just become more accustomed to what's expected of him. He's a very conservative young man. And he would probably prefer to just be distributing the ball, to other really good scorers. But he happens to be one of our best 3-point shooters, probably our best free throw shooter. He and Ryan are our best 3-point shooters, our best free throw shooters. Garius and Manu are our best drivers. He started out, I think, feeling like, hey, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I'm going to defer to the upperclassmen and just give the ball up. And he found out that that's not what I wanted from him. I wanted more. And when he figured that out, he started to try more and do more and enjoy more success.
Do you think it was kind of a learning experience when he came off the bench?
Oh, yeah, no question. That bench has a way of making kids learn quick.
Coach Gary says scored double digits the past few games. Is there something he's done differently to step
Yes.
up more?
Yeah, he's driving. He's getting to the rim more. He's getting fouled more. And that's really what he needs to do. Even though he didn't make a lot, he was only 3 for 8 from the foul line against Maryland. I would have liked for him to get 14 free throws that day. He was really driving well, getting to the basket. And he's a good free throw shooter. We're confident in his free throw shooting and free throw making. And he needs to keep that up. I think it puts a lot more pressure on the defense. And what it does is it'll loosen it up so he'll get an easier 3. If they're worried about his drives, they won't close out on him so quickly. He'll be able to look at a 3 a little bit longer, which is good.
Coach, how different do you see this team in the next couple of weeks? Because they are learning, they are getting together. Are you hopeful that you can still play that up tempo, not as much, maybe a little more than what you're doing now?
Well, we increased the tempo in the last 2 games because we felt like we could. But some of that has to do with the opponent's defense. So Pittsburgh on Wednesday night, they played Virginia yesterday, and neither team got to 50 because both teams play a similar style. And I could see that again come Wednesday night.
What's the next step, you think, in Tonier's offensive game growth? Is there a certain shot or range where you'd like him to apply what he's done in practice with you guys to a game more consistently?
I don't think we're going to see anything this year, but I'm hoping what he experienced this year will really plug him into developing during the spring and summer. I think last summer he worked at it, but he didn't kill himself. And he really needs to become fanatical if he wants to score it all. Because the only baskets he's really getting are right at the rim. He makes a jump shot once every 5 games.
Coach, with Manu, when we talked about him starting the year in the starting lineup and then coming off the bench, we talked about one of the reasons being you're going to the zone, you wanted Davon's length. Obviously, he hasn't gotten any taller. So were there things that he did in addition to that you decided to bring him back into the starting lineup?
Well, there were 2 things that occurred both at the same time. When we moved Davon into the starting lineup, he ran the point. And we were comfortable with that initially against the non-conference opponents because they didn't pressure him. But once we got into league play, it became clear that his best position was more to be at the wing and be a spot-up shooter. At the same time, Manu, he didn't grow, he didn't get any bigger in the zone, but his offense, he started to be more productive at the offensive end. And we need anybody that can score to be out on the court. So somebody like Eric Swope against Carolina scored 14 points. He played a whole lot that game, more than he has in any other game, because, hey, he found a way to score for us. Drove the ball to the basket, offensive rebounded. So anybody that can put points on the board is going to get a long look for us. And Manu was doing that. He did it first at Carolina, at Georgia Tech, and so he worked his way back into the starting lineup.
Just speaking of offense, I've got James Kelly. Do you have an update? I know you said he wasn't going to.
Do you know? Nobody knows. It's a big secret.
But same as last time you talked after the game, you said you don't expect him to play on Wednesday.
Well, I would say this. I haven't seen him today. I have not had an update from Wes Brown, our trainer. Not optimistic, based on I saw him yesterday, and he was limping. So I'm guessing we will not have him on Wednesday night.
Coach, what do you see in Pitt? Just what are you preparing for?
Playing Pitt is an awful lot like playing Virginia. They play a very, very tough half-court man-to-man defense. That's their bread-and-butter defense. They 4-5 trap on a post feed. That's part of their system and style. They do a tremendous job of helping each other. And they have 4 guys back from last year, so they've got a lot of experience playing well together. On offense, they may be the best passing team, not only in our league, but in the country. James Robinson, their point guard, his assist to turnover ratio is off the charts. But Wright and Patterson are also terrific passers, and their assist to turnover ratio is outstanding. So they've got a very, very skilled perimeter team with 2 very good inside guys in Young and Zen. So they're not the 3-point shooting team that Duke is, but they have a great way of attacking the paint and getting to the basket. Probably the best we've seen all year.
Jim, I wanted to get your thoughts on Davon's progress this season. It seems like he'll have one good game, one not so great game. I mean, how have you all been working with him to just kind of weather that storm?
Yeah, well, in honesty, we look at the situation. We've talked about how we expected Shane Larkin to be our point guard and Manu to back him up. And that really would have helped Davon, because then he would have developed very naturally at the wing position. He would never have been asked to play the point. And even though I think it helped him a little bit with his ball handling, it really took away from his strength. And his strength really is scoring the ball. He can really shoot. He's got good size and good length. But as a coach, you have to do with the players you have, you know. So he was our next best point guard ball handler, and he did a very good job of doing it, but at the expense of his development at the wing. So I'm more comfortable now with him coming in off the bench. He's done a nice job like he did against Syracuse last week. But he's not as likely to play as many minutes because he's now at the wing behind two seniors, Garius and Ryan. I did for the first time on Saturday, I tried to play the four of them together, Manu, Davon, Ryan, and Garius. And it didn't work that good. Not that it shouldn't, it really should work pretty well, but you have to be able to practice it. We just haven't devoted time to it. Don't have time to work on everything. Oh, but he's doing a good job. He's smart. He's a hard worker. He's competitive. He's enjoying a very solid freshman year, and we're pleased with his progress. One of the things I mentioned on the ACC conference call today is, you know, it's a little bit unusual, I think, in the ACC. We have like 5 or maybe even 6 freshmen starting at the point. In a league like ours, that's really unusual. Secondly, the teams at the top are playing at a really high level. That Syracuse-Duke game was awesome.
Yeah.
That was a classic. And then the next day, Pittsburgh, Virginia. So you have the 4 top teams in the league playing in a given weekend, and the games were great. And, you know, some people think the ACC is not quite as strong as it's been, and I would say if it wasn't, we'd be a whole lot better than 2-6 in league play, because we're not that bad and we're not that far off of these other teams, but they have 1 or 2 ingredients in terms of experience that we don't have.
How has Sheldon McClellan been practicing, and where has he developed the most from when you first got him here to today?
I'd say Sheldon and Angel have done a great job. Chris Caputo has taken them individually and working with them every day. Our real focus is in trying to help Sheldon become a better defender. He's a very, very talented offensive player. He's kind of a combination of Duran Scott, Ryan Brown, Trey McKinney-Jones. You know, he has size, length, jumping ability, shooting ability, driving ability, can make free throws. He's really good. He hasn't become the defender that he should be. He should be a weapon defensively. That's how much talent he has at that end of the floor. But most really good offensive players, you know, they rest on defense. And we can't afford that. We need him to become a great defender. You guys see what Trey McKinney-Jones is doing? He's averaging 17.5 points a game in the D-League. He's likely to be in the NBA soon. And you saw Shane Larkin played in the D-League the other day, and against Kenny Kaji. So right now we have, well, Shane I think is actually just back with the Dallas Mavericks. They sent him down just to give him some minutes. Kenny Kaji, Trey McKinney-Jones, and Reggie Johnson are all in the D-League.
Trey, one of the best all-around athletes that you had as a player?
Sheldon McClellan?
No, Trey. Trey McKinney. Was
Oh,
he,
Trey McKinney-Jones.
Yeah, just all-around athlete.
Just, you know, all around did everything. I had some NBA scouts ask me about him, and I just said he's a outstanding shooter when open, very conservative young man, so he's not going to make a lot of mistakes. He's not one of those guys that turns the ball over a lot. And he's got very good size and strength. I mean, we played him at the 4, so he's about 6'5", 220, so he's got a chance. If he finds the right team, he could end up playing in the league. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.